So now, Edie Raether. Edie, I have known Edie for a while. She has been, Edie, please come up here. She's an elder. I used to run she's one of my wise women. I've run the Longevity Summit for years, and I brought her on years ago as one of my guests on the Longevity Summit. And we've both done TED Talks together, and but I'm just like, Edie, we need more elders just like you. So you are 84 years young?
No, not quite that far. But
Okay.
yeah.
In her 80s.
I'm in my 80s.
She's in her 80s, young.
But I just got back from Japan on a skiing trip, so
Okay, she just got back from Japan on a skiing trip. But one of the top motivational speakers, she's been a hypnotherapist way before it was a cool thing, starting back in the 70s. Her bio is so exquisite, you guys, but instead of me just telling you how amazing she is, you can read her bio online. I want to give the mic to this amazing woman. I'm going to bring up your slides, and I want to introduce Edie Raether, the impeccable brain health.
Thank you. Where do I put this? Okay.
I might need help from the AV team, though.
I woke up at 4. I'm on Eastern time, and so I changed everything between 4 and 7. That isn't a good thing. I do want to say, though, when Melissa was saying, that women are challenged by a lot of the things, Melissa, we have to remember that women live. It used to be 7 years longer. It's now still over 6. Is that a good point?
Yeah, and we're going to talk all about that.
We're going to talk about that, yes. So I'm going to start with a couple of questions. One question is, let me ask you, what is the difference between you and Oprah Winfrey or you and Albert Einstein? It's just one thing. Does anybody want to guess? Guesses are free. What is it? Perception. What was that? Intelligence? And it's, intelligence, I don't know. Yeah, Oprah is pretty savvy, but I would guess it's one thing. It's how you think. And so I just tell people I am in the business of thinking bigger, better, bolder, and making a difference, right? And that's where it starts. I have another question to ask, and I think we actually have a slide on that. And that is, don't look at the answers yet. What controls you? What controls you? Husband, wife, boss? What would you answer? Family? Anybody else?
No, my ego.
What was that?
My ego.
Your ego, okay. How about habit? Is it not true that first we make our habits and then our habits make us? Aristotle said, we are what we repeatedly do. Is this not true? And so I'm going to talk a little bit about habits as well. And it's a matter of owning our thoughts, because can anything change unless we first take some responsibility for it? And the other thing is that I think a lot of times we use the brain and mind interchangeably. That is not true, okay? And what the mind is, which I think is much more exciting, but the mind is actually, it's a vibration, it's an invisible force that affects the brain. But we have to realize when we say that the body is a pull toy to the mind, that the brain is part of the body. It is physical. The mind is invisible. It's not in the body. It's an outside force that certainly affects it. And we're going to be talking more about conscious and subconscious activity. Now, having done hypnosis since about 1974, is anybody here familiar with Jean Houston? Nobody. You are. Look her up. She's still around. Actually, I think she might be older than I am. Still is active. I'm not going to say more because I'm too competitive, but I spent 10 days with her in 1974, I think it was. And she's written books like The Possible Human. She did studies with, LSD, the altered states of consciousness. And she would, with drumming and visualization and meditation, would create some of the same brilliance overnight. I saw this before my eyes. She would go into a room of third graders, and they would have stick figures. Oh, I'm getting chills. She would put them in an altered state of consciousness. And minutes later, they were painting and drawing like Picasso. She would do the same with music. Some of you have heard of the Rykov effect, where, and that's why I say, act the way you want to be and you'll be the way you act, right? It's kind of like fake it till you make it. But with Rykov, they were having people act as if they were Mozart. And if they were musicians, the music they produced was just brilliant after they would play that role. So it's really important that we understand the mind-body connection in a way that we really go both ways. And so a lot of times, well, you know what? Everybody get up for a moment. Just get up, just for a minute. And I want you all to yell 3 times in succession. I'm depressed, right? Ready? 1, 2, 3. I'm depressed. Again. I'm depressed. One more time. I'm depressed. You gotta fool me. Everybody had a smile on their face. Would you all sit down? Okay, and the point I am making is that there is a loop between the brain and the body. And so, if your body is saying, I'm depressed, but you're physically acting like a cheerleader, guess what will dominate? So we have to understand this incredible relationship between the mind and the body. So, it's all about kind of going to a higher level of consciousness. Well, I never actually ascended into higher consciousness. I was too busy posting it on the internet. And my last TEDx talk, and she was there, was on, is AI and digital dopamine making us dumb? Well, how many of you are on those dang phones and your kids, and they are addicted to dopamine? There's a better source and a better way of getting dopamine. One of them is nature, and we are losing out, and kids are learning it from their parents, right? So, how many of you are familiar with David Hawkins? Oh, wow. Okay, this is a good group. Power versus force. So you're real familiar with the different levels of energy and vibration. And isn't it interesting that what is not on there? Has anybody noticed what is not on there? Love. Oh, sorry. Love is on there. Yes, who said it? Happiness. That surprised me, is that joy is on there, and joy is very high. Do we not interchangeably use the words happiness and joy? Are they the same? No. The way I look at it is happiness is very dependent on external events. I just heard a young millennial. Now, I'm not picking on millennials. Pardon me if I do. And she said she quit her job because it wasn't making her happy. You know what? Happiness is a do-it-yourself job. And I find it interesting that it wasn't here. Joy is something that it emanates from within, isn't it? It's a state of being. And so if we are with joy, the happiness will come. So I found it very interesting. But you all know about the vibrational levels. So when does old age begin? Most people said about 85. Some people don't live to 85. In fact, the average. Okay. So 1% per year after 30, that's all we lose in terms of our neurons. Are we going to get upset about that? I'm not going to freak about that. And so it's all about our thoughts. Now, let me ask you a question. Where do thoughts exist? Where do they exist? You guys know David Hawkins, but you don't know that, huh? In our bodies. How many think it's in the brain? How many think it's in your body? How many think? It is. It's in all 3 places. You're doing pretty well. And I would give you one of my books if I didn't have to fly on Spirit and had a backpack where I... But they got me here. Coast to coast. You know what it costs? $42. I can't drive down the road for that. And I'm here. And I didn't fall out of the sky. Now, days that it takes to change a thought. This has been very consistent. I really love John Azaraf. Are some of you familiar with John? He has NeuroGym But all of the scientific proof is pretty much saying it takes 63 to 66 days to change a habit. And that means, and that's, when I do hypnosis, I have people record it so they can repeatedly do it. And that's when we can start creating new neural pathways. But here again, what Melissa was saying, it's kind of how we look at age. Don't let him pull. He has to learn to walk our pace. They're walking a turtle. And it's interesting that if we have that mindset that, oh my God, I'm 80, I'll be, what am I going to be? I don't even know. In fact, I was in the ER, I had a dizzy spell, and they thought I might have had a stroke. And I'm like, what? I don't have time for a stroke. And right? I couldn't believe it. And then I thought, wait a minute, lady, you're in your 80s. Some people don't even live to be 80s. And you know what it did? Isn't it interesting? Talking about purpose, and we'll be talking more about that. So many people, when they think they only may have 3 months to live or 3 years to live, what do? I'm going to go take a cruise. I'm going to do that. You know what? I've done all that. I like it. I'll still do it. But you know what it did? I'm in my 80s. I should have done it 30 years ago. I'm forming a 501c3 because I have a children's character building program that changes the way the world thinks, one child at a time. That's my legacy. And so what happened is I am working 12, 14 hours a day. I am working harder than ever because I am so clear on my purpose, and I ain't done with it yet. So, and my doctor thinks I'm going to be around another 25. Interestingly, that takes me to about 105, 106. I have, from a little girl on, thought I'd live to be 103 and 107. Now, if spirit doesn't fall out of the sky when I go home, I honestly think I'm going to make it. Okay, so I always say, and I do play the piano. I don't have a Steinway, though. But life is like a piano. It is how you play it, right? So when we're talking about the mind or brain, it's how you play it, right? I don't care how many neurons you have going. It's what you do with them. And remember, and I gave talks 50 years ago where I talked that we only use, 5% of our brain, 7%. That's not true. We're using our whole brain all the time. The difference is how you use it. It is how you think. So, pardon me. But there were a lot of other things we were talking about years ago. How many of you are old enough to remember, have you heard of autism? How many of you know what the scientific theory was back in the 60s about autism? Has anybody heard of the refrigerator mother? You have. You haven't, Melissa? This upsets me because there were a lot of women living with guilt because the theory then, and there were no female doctors back in the 60s. Very, very few of them had PhD, MD, chiropractic, whatever. Well, you guys were snake oil. Remember that? And so back then, they were saying that autism was due to refrigerator mother syndrome, which was that you had was a cold mother, and they didn't teach bonding. So when I look at science, everything I hear here, I know it's going to change. It's really going to change. It's good for now, and we've come a long way, but it will change. So we have to know that we have to become the creators. You are the designer of your life. You're the designer of your mind. You are the inventor. You are the teacher. Your brain, being in the body, remember I said it's a pull toy to the mind. You get to direct it. You have to see yourself as a maestro. All of you are part of my orchestra, and I know what to tune into. I know what to play at what different times. That's real fulfillment and success. And so how do we do that? We have to detach. We have to detach and observe our life and then start directing it. Because if we, listen to this, we might say, I have a cold, right? But who do you ever hear say things like, I have a depression? You don't hear that. We identify with our illness. Is this crazy or what? We say, I am depressed. Well, that's a good way to punch it into the subconscious mind and deep root all of the beliefs about that. So we have to remember that happy thoughts do release happy chemicals, and I do a lot with dopamine. I am totally convinced that dopamine, it's behind everything. It's why Tom Brady stop playing football. Because you know what? He wasn't playing as well. He didn't get as much dopamine. So he quit football and got his dopamine from chicks. Remember that? He started dating hot chicks. So, but is this not true? But we all, dopamine is what drives and reinforces our habits. First we make our habits, and then our habits make us. And I think in the talk that I gave, my TED Talk, I was like, I am flooded with dopamine. I love being on stage. And I get my dopamine, which is why in my 80s and hopefully in my 90s, maybe 100, that I will still be on stage, because for me, it gives me and it's a healthy dopamine. It keeps me off my phone, you know what I mean? Okay, so I want to also say something about the power of expectation. And I think, Melissa, you started with that. But if you expect little, you're going to get little results. We only fly as high as we expect to go. And it's a matter of giving permission. Roger Bannister is a great example. You've all heard of Roger Bannister. In 1954, he did the 4-minute mile. In 4 minutes, he did the mile, yeah. And nobody had done it. Do you know how many people have done it since? Of course, because it's all about limiting beliefs. Nobody thought they could do it, so you don't do it. Once he did it, everybody changed their belief system, and I don't know how many people have superseded. That's why people keep breaking Olympian records. In fact, let's just do something right now. Would you all stand up one more time? We're going to keep you active. Okay. What I want you to do is just simply put your arms out. Got it? And then I want you to twist, maybe to your right. You can go either way if you don't knock somebody over. And I want you to go as far as you can. Go as far as you can and mark it on the wall or wherever you're looking. Go as far as you can. See how far you can go, and then make a mental mark. Did everybody do it? Yeah. Okay. Now, take a moment. Close your eyes. And I want you to just see yourself going further. If you went as far as the camera, see yourself going a few feet beyond it. I want you to visualize at least a couple feet more. Just stop. Relax. Put your arms up again. Okay, go for your new mark. How many went further? Oh, wow, isn't that interesting? Surprising fact that is. Okay, you can all sit down. So it's really a matter of giving ourselves permission, having an expectation. You know, we can go through every Olympian. And you know what? It does come back to visualization. I wrote a book on winning, and I just think of Sarah Hughes. This is such a perfect example of how we can plant seeds of greatness, of living better, longer. And it's not a matter of putting more years on our life always as much as putting more life into our years, isn't it? But what's her name? Sarah Hughes. I think she was 16 years old, from Long Island, New York, skater, probably about 20 years ago. Did anybody see her? It was a spiritual happening. She was transcending. But you know what they did? First of all, were they expecting to win? They had video cameras there. They had video cameras ready to show her on stage with the gold. They were prepared. So they showed a video of her when she was, I think, 5 years old. So here is little Sarah with a pretend gold medal. Now notice it wasn't the platinum or the bronze. You go as high as you expect. She was going to go all the way. This is at 5 years old. And she said this: when I grow up, I'm going to go to the Olympics and I'm going to get a gold medal. I can hardly wait for it to happen. Okay? So what's happening there? Not only did she have high expectations, right? It was gold, nothing less. She didn't say, well, I want to, be nice to go to the Olympics. I'm going. What are you going to do to add health, age, whatever you want to your life? And then what did she say? I can't wait for it to happen. There was not one seed of doubt. See, if you have a seed of doubt, it's going to sabotage all of your dreams and your beliefs. I don't care what they might be. Health, well-being, doesn't matter. So We're looking at thoughts, beliefs, attitudes. You said perceptions. That is part of that whole belief process. And so it really does come down to attitude. It's how we look at it. It's our perception of reality. Prison looks pretty good if you look at it as a gated community, right? That's how you look at it. So, as I said, you are the director. Now, here's the thing. If you listen to the news, do you sometimes feel like we're going insane? I am a news junkie, and I know I shouldn't be because it's not. Did you feel a little bit depleted after you watch the news? I mean, I'm just in amazement. And I'm that much older when the world wasn't this way. But I will tell you, you have to do a reset. I think we constantly have to do a reset because we are exposed to toxicity that I just don't remember being there years ago. And so we do have to constantly just reset, if it's a quick meditation, whatever it might be. And by the way, when you do visualize, what is the best time of the day to do it? Best time of the day? Before bed is good. There's one time that's better because, yes, because when you are just waking up, you are moving from the unconscious to that alpha state. You are almost automatically already into a meditative state. So every day, I don't jump out of bed for a lot of reasons, but we won't go. Well, no. Can we replay that? Could we just delete that? I'm happily single. Let's put it that way. Just for confirmation. Oh, really? 5 minutes? Holy shoot. Okay. So anyway, let me tell you this. That is the time to just visualize whatever you want, whatever you desire. I don't care if it's health, happiness, a new love relationship. We got 5 minutes and we're through 5% of it, so we got to move. So your mind is basically a compass. And to break, I already talked about the Rykoff effect. And sometimes we make excuses. I think tossing and turning at night should be counted as exercise. We got to get rid of our excuses and understand that there is cognitive dissonance, that we become addicted to our emotions. That is the problem. How many of you watch The Bachelorette? I'm probably the only person with a brain that does it. You do. Isn't it fascinating? So, for those of you who didn't watch it, it's trauma. Worse than having your hair. And isn't it funny? I see Melissa and I say to her, I thought you used to be blonde. I had no idea she went through this trauma. First thing I said to her yesterday, what happened to you? It made her feel great, right? So, in the Bachelorette, she picks all these losers. They all have unfinished business. They have bad programming, because to change a habit, you got to override your bad programming. What's part of your bad programming? Some of it might be, honey, you can't have everything you want. How many of you heard that? You can't. What a bunch of bull. Yes, you can if you really, yes. Isn't it true? And so we download, in those first 7 years, we are in that altered state. We're in that slower flow state that Melissa was talking about. So we're downloading all of the stuff of our dysfunctional parents or teachers or whatever. And then we spend the rest of our life trying to upload and reload. So the bottom line was, she had these guys, and they all had gone through this trauma. They had intimacy disorders, whatever. She didn't have a father, so she had issues. So how many of you have noticed in relationships, and relationships have a lot to do with longevity. How many of you have noticed that in your relationships, you wonder why you attracted this person? That it's kind of a sick thing? Because, and you're sitting next to him, I'm sure, okay. And you may not want to be after this talk, but we do have to look at some of these factors because we become addicted to our emotions. It is what we know, it's what we're comfortable with, because the subconscious mind is like a little puppy dog, right? And that's part of survival. We like the familiar. So when we want to change, whether it's a relationship or how we think, we have to go through a real transition because there's a chemical chaos that goes on. Because that's not our identity. When we do things repeatedly, like I have a depression, when we do things repeatedly, what happens? That becomes part of our identity. And you know what? Isn't it crazy? Bees have an identity. They know what they're supposed to do. They make honey. All of this, what we call lower life, knows what. And yet 94% of the people, when they were asked what their purpose in life was, 94% did not have a clue. And purpose does drive longevity. There's absolutely no question. So going back to the Bachelorette, guess what happened? She chose a guy who had lots of issues, and right after they got engaged, he broke the engagement. They all lost. Everybody lost in this thing because of the underlying programs that they had never interrupted. So, when did you start believing your own motivational talks? Well, maybe it's time to start because we have to override the chemical chaos. Now, you all know about visualization, but I'm just going to give you a couple examples. John Azareth has NeuroGym, and he speaks on a lot of the stuff that I do, but I want to tell you, this is crazy. Oh my gosh, 3 minutes? No. Oh my God. Okay, let me just, give me a couple. Jim Carrey, let me just, okay. But Jim, is it fine? Okay. Oh, okay. So John Azareth says, he was unpacking here in California, and he found the picture of his dream house that he had on his vision board. He wrote the book on vision boards, and he's now living in it, okay? Jim Carrey, do you have him, Jim Carrey, the movie star? Years ago, he was not a waiter. I think he was going to work in a factory. He wrote a check to himself for $10 million. $10 million. And 10 years later, his only mistake was he should have made it 2 months. Guess what? He got a big role. And guess what the check was? $10 million. We don't have a chance to. Okay. You know what? I'm going to tell you something, just briefly. I did very well. Speaker, therapist. As a single parent, I made millions. I lost every dime. I was homeless a few years ago. But you know what my mother always said? Look at the bright side. So it's all a matter of mind. This is what I looked at. I had no flushing toilets. I had a pail from the Dollar Tree. They were only $1 then. Now they're $1.25. I don't know if I could afford it. But this is what I woke up to. And I was happy. And I didn't have anything but my brain and my computer, so I wrote 7 books. You got to grow where you're planted. Every day is a new chapter. And you know what? Is that not true? And it's all about gratitude. Because when you have gratitude, what do? You are focusing your attention on, this is all I had. I had a pail. I could have been using a tree. And so I was so grateful. I'm now living on one of the best spots on a 500-mile lake, and I'm doing just fine. So you know what? As seniors, we all have to make certain adaptations. You know what? But that's what it's about. It's the 3 A's. You've got to adapt. That's part of survival. The other is you have to align, right? And that's how we make a difference. So I want to just share one little story if I can, but it's all about purpose. What is your reason for being? There's a woman I met at a wellness conference. Her name was Adele. World War II broke out. She was living in an orphanage, and her best friends started throwing bricks and stones at her. And it was like, wait a minute, what is going on? They were part of Hitler's youth army. That's how minds can be changed. Her best friends were throwing stones and ready to kill her. And she was taken in by some people in Holland. So they took a risk. But the bottom line is, I'm going to tell you, the world is always full of good and evil. But the good thing is is that we have conscious choice. And that overrides all of the negative programming, where we can create new neural pathways, new health, and a better way of being. So my question to you is, how do you want to be remembered? Because that'll stimulate the purpose that'll keep you going a long, long time. How do you want to be remembered? Thank you. They're going to pull me off stage. Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you.